Good afternoon, my stamping friends, my paper pumpkin friends. Yes, today is the day. It is Paper Pumpkin Party Monday. I usually do this the last Monday of the month. So here we are, ready to share some fun ideas using the Meaningful Flowers Paper Pumpkin Kit. So, no matter whether you have visited before, whether you're new and just finding me, whether you're finding me on the replay on Facebook, or you visited and subscribed to my YouTube channel, welcome. I'm happy you're here. We are just still a minute early, so I will just hang here for a minute and be ready to share with you. So you're getting a good look, and you can take a screenshot if you need to. This is my current host code, and I will be closing that out in the next couple of days. So, and possibly even tomorrow's live, I will have a fresh one for September. Anyway, we'll see how much I get done tonight. Anyway, all right, so we might just about be there. I will remind you that we are in the closing days of the kit sale. I know there have been a couple of kits that weren't available, but so many great kits are available. So if you haven't checked those kits out, I would go ahead and do that. They make fabulous gifts for crafty friends, or you can buy the kit, make the kit, and give the cards or project as a gift. So your choice. Both work well. All right. Okay. So what are we working with today? We are working with the Meaningful Flowers August 2023 Paper Pumpkin Kit. Lots of great stuff in this kit. Beautiful envelopes, beautiful card bases, lots of beautiful, beautiful things. Fabulous coordinating colors, fun alternatives that Stampin' Up! Designers came up with, and I'm going to share a couple of others, actually 4 others. Okay, so let's kind of get organized here. So these are the cards as designed by Stampin' Up! When I did my unboxing video, I shared these. Okay, now I have since seen that they did want this to sort of tuck in, and it was like a removable piece. I'm happier with it popped up on dimensional, so that was one small change that I did make to that one. This one I didn't change much at all. And then on the back side are these really beautiful sayings, definitions perhaps, about the 2 kinds of flowers. And one of them we are going to feature. We're going to feature that. And I'll show you how to do that. Okay? All right, so that is that. So I had not seen this fun fold. It's called a back fold. And I'm going to just tuck this right there for you. Okay, so I did add a couple of things to this. Not much. Actually, maybe just this piece of cardstock, which is Bubble Bath, that beautiful new pale pink. And it's 7.5 by 5.5, scored at 3.5 and 6.5. So when you have the card, it goes like this, but then, and you'll see how we do this. So, and then when you go to open it, this is sort of in the way. And so what you do is you kind of bend this backwards and it opens. Okay. So let me just go through the rest of the pieces. So I took the card front piece and I trimmed it off at 3/4 of an inch and saved that little piece. Okay, so what's going to happen, let's just grab our adhesive and we're going to put, whoops, well, maybe we are. There it goes. Well, come on now. Listen, Stampin' Seal, you and I usually work pretty well together. There we go. Okay. There. All right, so this goes on the front. Okay, so you're just going to give that a nice even border all the way around, or as best you can. You know, we don't get too picky about these things. I tell people that come to the studio to do class that if anybody ever, you know, has something not so nice to say about a handmade card that you have given them, they never get another one. They get the crappy ones from, you know, the dollar store or something. All right, that looks pretty good. Hey, I didn't even have that across, and I got that lined up pretty well. All right, so then we have a piece of the envelope. Okay. So it does have that score line, but you can kind of get rid of it a little bit if you kind of go from the back and just kind of push it out like that, and it's a lot less noticeable, and once you write your message, people aren't going to see that. Okay, so this piece from the envelope measures just over 5 1/4, but you could make it 5 1/4, or this ruler isn't quite accurate or something. It's okay. By 3. Okay, so you don't want it real wide because you want it to fit in here, but you do want the height. Okay, so, and this would be the front side of the envelope. I wonder if I think I have one here. I've used all the forget-me-not envelopes, but you'll notice that this is the front side of the envelope, okay, the white side. There's another one that we're going to use the other side, I think. Okay, there we go. All right. So now, okay, just put that in there. And again, we're kind of trying to keep those things lined up. Okay, now this is where it gets tricky because there's not a lot to hold it. Okay, you don't put any adhesive over on this side. You only get to put adhesive just on this little tab right here. Okay, so I'm going to put a couple of glue dots there because glue dots are pretty strong. So I'm going to just get them out to the edge as close as I can. And like that. Now they are overlapping a little tiny bit, but that's okay. All right. Oh, hey, you know what is a great idea? To not put your adhesive on before you stamp. Yeah, so we are going to use, I'm going to use my slightly bigger Pretty Peacock pad. We got a Pretty Peacock Stampin' Spot in the kit, but I'm going to use my little bit bigger pad. It's just easier for me. Just like it's easier for me to use my seal instead of the adhesive that came in the kit. Okay. All right, let's grab this. You are capable of amazing things. All right, put that right here. Now you could put your greeting somewhere else if you wanted. That's totally okay. But I'm just washing that stamp, which is probably just out of your camera view, I hope. All right, so now we're going to eyeball where I want that. Now I don't want this edge to go over the edge of the card because this is 4 1/4. This, oh no, it's only 4. So if it does go over, it's not a huge deal because you do have a little bit of room. Okay, but let's bring this down like this so that, there we go, I can feel that adhesive right there. Okay, so now watch what happens. You bend this back so that it opens, and then when you close it, this comes back across the front. Isn't that cool? It's called a back fold. I really like that. It's fun. Okay, so there's our first card. All right, that was a quick and easy one, wasn't it? All right, so card number 2 is a joyfold card. Not sure if you know about a joyfold card, but joyfold cards are really fun. And they open twice, okay? So let's see what we've got for pieces and parts. Now some of it came from the kit and some I added, okay? These 3 pieces I added. I added some Lemon Lolly cardstock that is 8 1/4 by 4 1/4, okay? And then I scored it at 5 1/2. So this is sort of your standard, and then some of the front got cut off. About half, actually. So that's 2 3/4. So if you think of just doing a 4 1/4 by 11 base and scoring it at 5 1/2, and then just cutting 2 3/4 inches off, or roughly half. Okay. All right. Then we have another piece of Lemon Lolly, which I just trimmed down from the piece that I cut off, and put that on there after I embossed it with the painted posies. Now you could use something to go over and get just a little bit of color on there if you wanted. You could grab a sponge dauber. This has just a tiny bit of, see, you could just add just a tiny bit of color if you wanted to. Now, I probably should have used Azure Afternoon, but that's okay. We can have pink flowers on this card. It's all good. So I'm just kind of really lightly, and I didn't add much ink that was left over from something else I did. So I'm just adding a little tiny bit of color. Or you can keep it tone on tone. You don't have to add any color if you don't want to. Okay, so that is going to go here. So we'll just add some adhesive, and I'm going to be pretty liberal. Most times I'm not, but for when this is embossed, I do go pretty liberally with my adhesive. Some people use the liquid glue for embossed pieces like that. That works well as also. Okay. So then I've got this Azure Afternoon, and this is 4 by 5 1/4, sort of your standard next layer down. Okay. And we're going to put that in here. And so this time I will use a little bit of that liquid glue, and we'll just add that here, like that. Okay. And that goes on the inside, like this. And that way, a lot of people like using that liquid glue because it gives them just that minute, well, not a whole minute, a few seconds to slide that around and get their border a little bit more even sometimes. For some people, it's a little easier. Okay, so now we have that beautiful, and that I use the painted texture embossing folder in my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Now, if you don't have a Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine or whatever, it doesn't mean you can't do these things. Just do them plain. It's fine. There's plenty of excitement with the rest of this card. So now here is the Forget-Me-Not card base. Now we are going to lose this, but that's okay. It's not a terrible thing. There are ways that you could get around it, and but anyway, this will work just fine. So what you want to do is kind of have your border over here pretty even, okay? And then what happens is your card opens twice. It opens here, and then it opens here, okay? Which is pretty great. All right, so let's put some adhesive here. And I'm gonna, again, be pretty liberal with it because we are going on to that embossed layer. Like I said, you don't have to have that Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. I mean, especially if you're just getting started. Okay. There we go. So let's just give that a good little rub. I changed the number of little links in the arm of my camera stand here. So I'm hoping that you are getting bounced around a little less. So I'm just going to give these a really good crease so that it lays a little bit more flat, okay? So that when we open it, there we have that. And I really should have brought a Jour Afternoon. And I didn't, but they are using Pretty Peacock, and so that's okay. Now, what you do want is, I used a die set, but you could use a punch or something else to put over here like this, so that, and it goes up on dimensional so that when you open this, it opens, but then it stays closed. It tucks underneath. Okay, so let's grab, here it is. So this is one of our online exclusives, and I wanted to use that hello right there. Let me grab that and put it on a block real quick. This is way too big of a block. I should have grabbed a smaller one, but that's okay. We can make it work, right? So light taps. Okay, if you aren't familiar with our ink pads, you don't have to bring your gym muscles. Okay, and then just nice straight down. A little pressure, give it a few seconds for that ink to transfer into the paper, and then straight up, okay? Alrighty. And again, I could have used something from the kit or gone back to a previous paper pumpkin kit if I had wanted to. That would have been totally fine. Just going to put that away. It's such a small stamp, I don't want to lose it. So we'll put that over there. All right. So now what we want is a couple of dimensionals. Now we need to be a little bit careful because we really only want adhesive over on this side. So let's let me double check that. Yep. So we're going to put those dimensionals right over there on that side. There we go. And then I'm going to just edge that out. Not so it's going too far, and so that those don't, and then what happens is that opens, but it will help hold that closed a little bit like that. So there's our joy fold card. All right, so we did a back fold and we did a joy fold. So now our third card, card number 3. Oops, you're not supposed to see that flower yet. That's okay. That's okay. So this one, remember I said we were going to feature this piece. So we're going to take that card base, okay, and we're going to just, whoops, I think it went this way. So it was 4 1/4 by 11, and we just cut off 4 inches. All right, so we left 1.5 inches here. So the easiest way I found to do that is to put this score line and line it up at 1.5 in my trimmer, and then just cut that off. And that worked out quite nicely. So then I have a piece of bubble bath cardstock for the inside because it's nice and light, easy to write on. Okay, and this is 4 1/4, so we've got the same width. Okay, and it's just a teeny bit shy of 5.5, so it looks like 5.5 on here, but on my cutter, what I did was, let me show you. So what I did was I went to 5.5, okay, and then I just came forward just to whatever this next mark is. So like a 6, so here's 5.5, this bigger mark. I just went to this little one, and not even all that way. You just want it a teeny tiny bit shorter, just so that when you tuck it up into this fold, there's not bulk, and it doesn't hang out over the end. And see, I should probably take off just a teeny bit more. Let me do that. Not much, because I don't want it to be too short. Okay. Now your blade should be really sharp if you're going to do this. And I'm hoping mine is. Okay. Not great, but it got it. See, I wasn't taking much off, and so I got it a little crinkly. What I'm going to do is put that part up in the fold, and then it won't be so noticeable. Here we go. All right, so then you just tuck this up there, and then it's nice and flat and even, and then this folds over. So I can just add my adhesive here, like this. Okay, close it down, and that's the back. And if, again, anybody complains, they should not be getting a card from you. Okay, so then I took the vellum piece, and you can sort of see it's much more vibrant on one side than it is on the other. So I liked it best this way. You might like it better this way, and that's okay. If you prefer that sort of more muted look, that's all right. I'm going to go this way so that it really kind of pops off of there. Now, the trick is with color, usually it's really hard to hide the adhesive, and you would just put it right under where you're going to put your flower. However, with colored vellum, it's much less, whoops, do I have something sticky? A little bit. It's much less noticeable. So I'm going to put a tiny bit under each of the pads, the lily pads there, and I'll put a little bit more in the middle where I'm going to be putting that lotus flower. So we're going to use that bonus stamp set that we got. Wasn't that nice that we got a second stamp set? So I don't obviously want to cover any of that, and I obviously don't want this to go over the top. So I'm just kind of looking like that. Now see, you can't see, at least I can't, and I'm sitting right here with a lot of good light. So you should be fine, okay? So that goes on there. Now, I did not use one of the die cuts. I could have, but they gave us this beautiful stamp set. And you don't need much. I did use a couple of colors, but you don't need a lot of colors to do this flower. Okay, so what I did was I took the bigger flower. You could use the smaller one if you wanted, especially if you wanted like two. You could use the smaller one. I used the Bubble Bath ink and inked up the whole flower. Okay, that's how I got the sort of lighter parts. Now these are distinctive stamps, so you get that sort of, you're supposed to have that variation. Okay, it's okay. It's good. All right, then I took my crushed curry pad. Ooh, you can see how dirty my tops are. And I just took the very edge of a sponge dauber and got some ink on it. And there's a spot kind of right in the middle that I just added some crushed curry ink for that center. Okay, so I just added a little bit like that. And if you need to darken it up, you can do that. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to close that so I do not get ink all over the place. Then I'm going to grab the Melon Mambo, and I'm basically going to do the same thing. I'm going to use my sponge dauber, get a little ink on there, and I'm just adding it to the edges and where I think the petals might have a little bit darker color. Okay, so I'm going to go down here, might go along here, okay, a little bit over here. So I'm just adding a little bit of extra color, okay? Then, in order to get that ink, because some of it may have dried on that photopolymer stamp, you need to exhale on it. That takes the moist breath and re-moistens the ink so that it will stamp. We used to call that huffing, and then there was a whole lot of stuff that made that not a good word to use, and whatever. So now I probably should have brought in my Stampin' Pierce mat, and I didn't, so I'm just giving it an extra minute, just walking my fingers around, and hopefully we have a beautiful lotus flower. And we do have a beautiful lotus flower. Now, I did one earlier so that you didn't have to watch me cut, but let me just remind you of a couple of things. First thing is that you want to make sure that your scissor hand is not really doing much of the work. It's just opening and closing the blades, okay? Your other hand is the one that's doing all the moving. So I'm moving the paper, not the scissors, okay? So that's super important when you're cutting, when you're hand cutting things out, okay? And when you start getting these flaps, just cut them off, and then they won't bang into your scissors or create problems. Okay, so you're just going to move the paper like that, not, and you may have to, you know, tuck your thumb in and whatever you need to do. Okay, if you've gotten your scissors all the way closed, you're going to have to open them up. All right, so see how that works? You're mostly moving the paper, not the scissors. Okay, all right, let's get that out of the way. Put those away. I'll finish cutting that flower later, and we'll use this one. Now I am going to pop that up on a few dimensionals because I think it's going to look really pretty that way. And that's fine. I was just thinking if I should get a couple of the mini dimensionals, which I have right here, and do a couple out on these petals just to be on the safe side. I'd much rather use a couple of extra dimensionals than to have something arrive smushed or bent or something. Okay, there we go. So now we can add this like that. Now you could also create a couple of lily pads. If you wanted to add a couple of extra lily pads, you could add a smaller flower. Okay, you could shift this and do 2 if you wanted. So it's up to you. They gave us that beautiful stamp set, so go ahead and use it, right? Once even all your pieces from the kit are used up, you can use that. Now, I did not cut this, but I could. There we go. I think I have a piece. There we go. All right, so I have this piece of envelope left over. So what I can do, if I want that white to stamp on, I can just trim off like this. Okay, that should get that off. And let's go to 4 3/4. That should give us plenty. Okay, get those out of there. And then I'm just gonna straighten that and take off that. So I'm gonna go right here, because the size that you have for the inside doesn't need to be a specific size, okay? You just wanna make sure. So I'm just gonna straighten that up a little bit, like that. So now I have this nice piece right here. I could stamp like the smaller lotus flower. In fact, let's do that. I have an empty block. Let's just give this a good rub. Sometimes the photopolymer stamps have a little, yep, it'll come to me in a second. Just a little like residue from the stamping process. And I'm not even going to add any more ink to this dauber. I'm just going to kind of give it a little bit. Whatever was on there, that's what it's getting. Okay. And we're just going to put this down here in the corner. Like that. And then, because I really love this saying, you are capable of amazing things. And we'll just put that up here. And then I still have a little bit of room for an encouraging note for somebody or something. Okay. Let's stick that in. And that will be card number 3. How are we doing? Oh, we are doing very well. I am happy that we're not taking too long. Whoops. There we go. All right. This is a lightweight layer, so it doesn't need much adhesive, just enough to hold it in place. So I usually do 4 little ones in the corners and then 1 in the middle. And then we'll just put this right there. Okay. There we go. Isn't that pretty? I love that. So beautiful. Okay. All right. So let's see, on to our last card. All right, so this one, I add a little bit of ribbon and a piece of balmy blue cardstock, okay? And the long, narrow band, this was in the kit, and then the forget-me-not envelope. Now I can't show you how I cut this with the forget-me-not envelope, but see, it's gonna have the forget-me-nots on the inside, which is a good thing. All right, so let me show you how I did that with one of the lotus flower envelopes. Let me just set that right here. And let's grab this and my trimmer. Okay, get some of those things out of the way. And so the first thing that I always do when I'm gonna use an envelope is I take the tiniest smidgen off the edges so that it will open all the way. Okay, so I mean tiniest smidgen. You're just basically cutting that fold off. And then, because you can't flip it, like, what am I trying to say? Anyway, I just flip it over so that you can get this other side. Okay, and again, we're just taking that tiniest smidgen off. Now, if I were to do this and want this flower on the inside, like I wanted the forget-me-nots on the inside, I need this a little bit wider than 4 1/4, and I need 5.5 inches in height. Okay, so again, you're gonna see that little line on the inside. You can disguise it if you want. It's not very noticeable on the front. Okay, I just don't worry about those things. Again, anybody is not happy with a card you make, they don't get another one. So I would go, the first thing I would do is take this bottom panel off, and I would take the score line and put it just to the outside edge of your cutting track, okay? So that you don't want to be cutting right on the score line. You're likely to get fuzzies if you do that, okay? So now we need 5.5 inches tall, right? And we need just more than, we need just about 5.5 inches wide so that we have that little piece to wrap around the back. All right, so what we want to do is we want to take and straighten up this side as much as we can, and so we're gonna go to just about 5.5 here, and that way that will get most of that pretty straight. Okay, if it's not exactly 5.5 wide, that's okay. All right, so if you feel like you need to take a little bit more off, that's fine. But first, take the top off. Okay, so that is 5.5. We do want 5.5 in height. Okay, so we're going to go to 5.5 in height, and this will get that sticky off and stuff. Okay, so now this, okay, we want our score over here, okay, because that's what's gonna, this is gonna be your front, right? So we put this at 4 1/4 like that, because that's what we want, and we move our cutting blade out of the way. Don't cut it. You want to just score it, and you remember you're not on a cardstock weight, so don't go too hard. Okay, and then you would have this. Now you could add some flowers or something to the front, right? And then when you open it, you will have the flower on the inside. Okay, so that's how I did this one, except that we're going to use the forget-me-nots. Ask me how many pieces of envelope are not cut the right way. Leslie was having a little trouble focusing this afternoon, and so I made a few little boo-boos. But that's okay, because I had one last envelope that I could use to share with you guys. And like the other one, you are going to want to be just that tiniest bit under 4 1/4, so that when you tuck that in, you're not hanging over the side and you don't have a lot of bulk there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put our adhesive here. Okay, whoops. There we go. Okay, like that. Oops, a little at the bottom, a little at the top. There we go. Okay, and we're just going to fold that over. Okay, so there's that. Isn't that pretty? And so now when you open it, you have that. And you can, like we did before, and since we're going to use the white side, it won't matter which envelope it is, we can just trim off this, like that. Get those off. Go to about 4 3/4 there. There we go. That way you don't have any, I've seen people, heat them and do all kinds of things to peel that off to get that extra little bit. But when you're doing it for the inside, it doesn't really matter. Okay. All right, and let's just get just that little bit of arch off. There we go. Good. So now, and you could, again, you could use your, you could use the forget-me-not stamp from in here. We're going to use this You Rise Above the Rest, okay? And then you could do the other greeting, which says, your friendship is unforgettable. And you could do that on the inside. Okay, so we're going to just, You Rise Above the Rest is going to fit right on here very nicely, like that. Then put this across the front, and then we'll just trim those ends. I probably gave myself a little extra, but we'll just put that there, and we'll just go kind of like, and you can center it, you can have it a little off to one edge. You could even trim off one side flat and have it, in fact, you know what? Let's just show you what that would look like. Okay, so let's just we're going to just, there. So I'm just taking that little flag off the end, and that way, let's put some adhesive on. Leslie, you should be using your silicone mat so you don't have sticky everywhere. Okay. So let's put this. So this comes from the sheer ribbon combo pack, and you get lemon lolly and the azure afternoon and the bubble bath. Those 3 colors are in there, and it's such pretty ribbon. And the Lemon Lolly is so light that with a dark Stampin' blend, you can kind of make it any color you want, which is pretty cool. I mean, not quite any color. You can't get it to be, you know, something super light, but there's that. And then let's add some adhesive to this. Okay, and then I'm going to go right to this edge like this. Okay, you rise above the rest, and then on the inside we'll grab, oh, I wanted to show you one thing before, because when you mount these stamps, I would not try and lay it on the block because you could inadvertently curve it. So what I like to do is sort of lay them, just sort of throw them down on my desk and let them kind of go into their natural shape, okay? And then I go ahead and pick them up. I have talked about why I do this on the diagonal like this, and that's so that those straight edges of the block don't trick your eyes. Now you really have to look at the words and make them be straight, okay? All right, so there's that. And I can clean off this one and put the "You're Capable of Amazing Things," which would work with that, but because we're using the forget-me-nots, let's use, so I'm going to just, again, drop that down, kind of go diagonally and pick it up just in case my hand wants to turn it or anything like that. Okay. And we'll just put that right there. Okay. And again, like I said, you could use the forget-me-not stamp to just kind of carry that over. All right. In fact, it would look really good, I think, in the Pretty Peacock, and then I can grab a marker and just color it in the Only Blue. That would be pretty. So let's put that. Let's grab this. And there we go. Ooh, it's got some color on it. Oh, I was coloring on it with markers. So I've got a couple in the box that I can show you that I did the other day when I was playing. All right, let's do this on here so that I don't muck up my desk paper too much. There. So then I can just color those flowers if I want. Okay. All right, let's add that. There we go. There. So now you have this as a card. And that is, I'm noticing that's just a teeny bit tall. I can just trim that off. It's no big deal. All right, so let's close this up. Let me grab the couple that I did in my box. I made a couple of others the other day. There we go. Let's see. Oh, there's one. Okay. Oh, I didn't ever put this one together. All right, those are the ones we made. So here's a couple that I was playing with. That one of them I haven't finished. So I was playing with some window sheet, and so I would put something along the bottom. In fact, I have that right here. Okay, so you would put this along the bottom like that, and then I could add something there, and then it opens this way. So it just appears that that is floating and not attached really to anything. Okay, so that was one I was working on a little bit. So there's another one I was kind of playing around with. Once I had this piece cut off of something, I realized I could put this, and I could even with some Azure Afternoon or the Pretty Peacock and do some more of the smaller flowers. Let me clean this off. Like I could stamp some of those in the background, more tone on tone. Even with the balmy blue, so that I just have some more flowers sort of fading off into the background. So that was another option that I had. And then this one is where I colored right on the stamp. I used my Stampin' Right markers and colored right on the stamp, and then colored in that. And I used the Nested Essentials dies. And then I had the envelope paper, and then I did that. So anyway, I hope that this was fun for you. Okay, I will leave this one there. I don't have directions or anything for it, but I'll leave it there. Maybe I'll get to that, sharing me directions. But let's put these out here. Okay, I will take pictures and that sort of thing, and put them in the comments if it allows me to do so. Some days Facebook is helpful and some days it's not. So we'll just see what it's acting like tonight, okay? All right, so I am glad that you were here to join me. If you have, let me know what your questions might be, or whatever. I do still have one kit available as of today, August 28th. So if you missed out by any chance and you would like one of these kits, I do still have one available. All right, so thanks so much, and if you are coming to the studio at 6, I will see you then. Take care.